they're going to allow us for the next hour to turn their lives into a real live Wikipedia page. So we can ask them anything we want and make fools of them at the same time. Please welcome our great, esteemed panelists. Back to deal with music. We're going to have a little bit of fun today, and then we're going to piss off a lot of these guys. Please direct your attention to the mystical mind of Andrew Dreskin, the founder of TicketWeb, credited with selling the first online ticket ever. Later selling the entire company to Ticketmaster for a fatty check. 5 years ago, he came back to start TicketFly, the Virgin Airlines of the ticketing world, already signing over 500 clients by aggressively courting them in a very Mad Men style, making it cool to be a ticketing company. Nobody's ever said that out loud. At the same time, he produces the largest free annual music festival in the States. Please welcome the godfather of online ticketing, Andrew motherfucking Dreskin. Give it up for him! Now please feast your eyes on the management skills of David Britz of Westchester Productions, handling Brian Culbertson, Matt Dusk, A Great Big World, and Straight No Chaser. He once said he'd even need to see a deal from his own mother in writing. David is a very attractive man that likes hot chicken, pina coladas, and walks in the rain. Toronto, make some noise for the hurricane, Mr. David Britz! Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, allow me to introduce the gentleman of Kitchener descent. Known for his priceless charm and wit, he started out at the age of 13 with odd jobs. At the age of 18, he was mixing sound for area bands, promoting shows while attending university. Cutting his teeth under Helio's manager, leading to a position with Sam Feldman as a booking agent, eventually being promoted to the president of Feldman Agency, where he's held court for the last 20 fucking years. While booking some of the biggest acts in the world, among them Headley, Nelly Furtado, Matthew Good, and the tragically hip. Good people, please join me in welcoming a man of distinction, Sir Jeffrey Craib! Next, a rare treat, concert promoter Jason Zink, one of the most active talent buyers in the world. At the helm of Sherpa concerts, focusing on North American touring, producing over 500 shows a year, from Keith Urban to the Black Keys. That'd be a really weird show. He's a Kansas City 8 that can drink his own body weight in Patron Silver in a single setting. Give it up for Jason freaking Zink! Now, someone truly special. Former bass player of the legendary Harlequin, turned agent with an ear for talent, booking Nickelback, 3 Days Grace, and Billy Talent, and an inductee to the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. Friends, neighbors, countrymen, show some respect for the great one, Rhett James! I'm Dan Steinberg of Square Pen Concerts. I'll be guiding you along your way for the next hour. If there's anything I can do to make your panel experience more enjoyable, please let me know. You can tweet along the way. Feel free to take pictures and tag me. It's CMW Pros. It's up on the board if you need to see it. Or just black. You can tag me at the Jew, or you can follow all of our panelists, which they'll be putting up there anytime. We're so pleased that you joined us today. So don't be afraid to bring your questions, as we have an amazing amount of prizes for great questions, including 50 custom tour pass laminates from Access Pants and Designs, a custom tour mat from Bill Young Productions, and for the best question, a free pass to next year's Canadian Music Week. So some great prizes for the 3 best questions, so think about them. really worth doing, but we're going to hold the questions to the end because first I want to fuck with all of these guys. Who's ready for a beer? Let's get fucked up. You guys want a beer? Let's do this. Find a drink. Just pass me down. Put you to work right off the bat. You guys do that. They're done right off the bat. Jason, while you're doing that, can you answer a question on how does a band build a buzz?
For that one.
David can open beers. He manages acts. He knows how to do that.
How to build buzz. So I'd say, first just effort and why, the music is what you want them to talk about. So let's make it easy to get it out to people. So whether that's, physical, CD that you're taking to random people, or emailing links, SoundCloud, etc. There are plenty of ways to get sending music out. And it's finding the music critic in the market. It's finding every local promoter you can find to get them to know about you and talk about you. And it's just contacting every last people in the market that you possibly can.
Excellent. Jeff, how does an act attract your attention? I think a lot of the bands in the room would really like to be on your roster. I'll take one of those two.
They attract our attention by creating a buzz, either by having, sometimes we see YouTube videos, sometimes we're hearing about bands from stringers or associates that we have in the industry, sometimes the club owners are telling us to, giving us a heads up on a band. Sometimes we find out and they attract our attention because it's someone we're already doing business with, another manager, another band. A lot of times the bands are great sources for us to prospect other bands that are of interest to us. So we get it from many sources.
You take bribes?
None that I'll admit to.
Okay. Ralph, do you take bribes? No.
Only for promoters. Those are good.
That's called commission. Yes. Ralph, how are you willing to book an unsigned act to a record label?
Since most bands don't have record deals anymore, yeah, why not? We go based on musical merit, I think. So many of the bands that we've had success with really had nothing going on other than great music, and that's all it takes.
You guys have certainly built a couple bands in Canada.
We've had, it's nice to be right once every 3 decades.
I think you've been right a couple more times than that. David, what gets you hard? What are you looking for signing a new management client?
Exactly. Jason grabbing my leg. I think for me, it's just, I think we're all looking for things that we're inspired by. I think we all got in this business because we were fans first. And I think it's going out and meeting someone and hearing something that just inspires you. And to Ralph's point, it's not about numbers, it's not about statistics, it's about, hey listen, does this band or this act have what it takes? Am I going to invest my time and my money? Because it's not just time, it always is money. Am I going to invest time and money to develop this? And it's not a 1-year thing, it's typically a 2 to 3 year thing, which is a real commitment. So, it's looking for that passion and that inspiration.
Is there something that'll get you on board a little earlier than that sometimes, like maybe winning a nationally televised singing competition?
Those things help. But I think it all comes down to the music. I mean, you can have the look, you can be styled properly. If you do not have great music and you do not move people, it's not going to work. And I think we're looking for people that are great.
So if you're not attractive, it doesn't matter.
You can be ugly and make good music.
Lucky for me. Andrew, is there anything TicketFly can do to help establish or break an act?
Well, that's a good question, Dan.
Why, thank you, Andrew.
So we approach the world via the venue or the promoter. What we do is we develop tools for venues and event promoters to run their businesses and sell tickets, and to increase utilization rates, bring more people to the building, all of that stuff. So some of the things that we work on are tools that allow our promoters to see how artists are trending across the network. You know, we now have sort of critical mass, certainly in the club space. When an act goes out on the road, you know, we'll stay with that band from the 930 Club to the Independent to the Troubadour to the Horseshoe, those types of things, and that allows us to service up data to the promoters. So that's one way that we sort of participate in this process, the other way that we get involved in the process is, well, I would just leave it at that. I think that's, I don't want to bear too many of the stuff.
We got an hour. We'll get to some more of that stuff. I'm gonna hit you up. All right. Let's talk about how a tour comes together. Ralph, how does the routing work? Where does it start? How does that? What's the first thing?
Well, a band has to have some traction to consider even routing it. Certainly, if you're in a densely populated part of the country in Canada, if you live in southern Ontario, technically you don't have to be routed because most of the major markets that you can play in and around southern Ontario are within 3 or 4 hours maximum drive. So, but it's certainly for a band to go across the country and certainly through northern Ontario, through the prairies and through the mountains, where there's sparsely populated, you need to have some traction to even consider undertaking that, unless you have some serious backing. So, if bands that have the wherewithal to get themselves across a country the size of Canada with the small population that we've got here, they need to really have their shit together and be organized. So it's something. It's you know, if you have a map, it's not that tricky.
Cutting commissions and selling maps. I love it. David, is there a normal rhyme or reason to what markets you route in and route out of the tour?
Absolutely. I think it's so data driven now. I think, you know, especially when you're dealing with an act that wants to be on the road continuously, and with artists' revenue streams changing and artists relying more and more on the live business, you have to let data drive where you're going to play. You know, how long has it been since we last played the market? How did tickets sell last time we played the market? Did they pace quickly? Did we sell out quickly? Are we moving up venues? You know, everything comes into play, and I think, you know, throwing darts at a map just doesn't work. I mean, this is all data driven, and if you're not spending the time to route your bands properly, then you're doing them a disservice.
Is there a time where media can be so strong, maybe breaking a single or something, where they dictate when you play where?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're dealing more in the pop space, where you're dealing with an act that's, you know, on Hot AC or CHR radio, I think, you know, the media attention will determine whether you're going to a market. If you have a market that's spinning the record, you know, 100 times a week, you got to be playing that market. But if you're dealing with an act that isn't driven by mainstream media, then you're really letting the data dictate, because there's so many acts that you probably don't even know that are worth thousands and thousands of tickets. You know, it really just matters if people care.
Jason, how far in advance should an act be working out their routing for the best chance at the hottest venues?
I think it depends on the size of the venue that we're talking about. If we're talking about 1,000, 1,500 seat club, I'd say, you know, to get the best avails, I'd say 6 months. And certainly you can do it in a lot less time than that. You're just going to get not as perfect a routing. And certainly smaller clubs, we're talking, you know, 6 weeks maybe. And if we're talking big theaters, big arenas, you know, we should be a year out on a lot of that stuff.
I think the majority of the artists that would be at this panel are probably in an emerging category. So I think that a lot of them would be able to book a show next week in a place like Toronto if they needed to, if they're trying to get exposure. I think that if there's a lot of established artists in this room, I'd be surprised. So I think that the majority of the artists that we probably are talking to today are, you know, in an emerging role, and somewhat, you know, will take what they can get. So
yeah, hoping to play the Horseshoe, but
Yeah, and I guess to that point though, there's you know, there's an awful lot more bands now than there was 2, 3, and 5 years ago. So in this country, in particular, there's some of the club stuff, certain clubs have sort of come to the forefront, and they're part of kind of the sort of 300 to 500 seat touring clubs that exist, and so they're piled very, very deep with 4-band lineups. And so, even on the developing side, you can probably find a gig, on a week's notice. But if you, it's a shitty gig. But if you want to actually get in one of the premier sort of development clubs, they're pretty lined up these days.
Cool. And talking about that, keeping with that vibe, support slots. How do you get them? Like, you control those bigger acts. How do you guys decide who gets to open those shows? By the way, if you want to buy him a drink later, you might have a better shot at this.
I actually, I'd love to think that I control those spots, except we really, I would say have a little bit of influence, but not as much as people would think. Sometimes the support slots, if people are smart, are being controlled by the bands that can add the most to the shows. So sometimes it's someone with a regional following. If it ends up being a national band, it's maybe because they have radio or something to offer. More so than another band that's trying to get the same shows. People are trying to package for success, so they want to get the best possible scenario in every city, or the best possible scenario on a national or a regional tour. So that that dictates a lot of what ends up being the lineup. Is just you want to put somebody on that can help sell some tickets or add to the package.
Got it.
Bands that can sell all the tickets don't care, they take their friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the managers of their client, apparently, sometimes. Andrew, are there certain times of year that you guys find, speaking of the data, sells better than other times of year, and if so, when?
It's interesting. I took a look at it recently, and there appears to be no discernible difference, quite honestly. Everything is sort of within a margin of error. So I think on the low end, so what we saw is the worst time to sell tickets apparently is January, but I'm not sure that that's actually, that it's not a false economy, because we know that the fewer acts are sort of touring in that zone and playing in the clubs and that sort of thing in that zone. So we sell 6% of our tickets in January. The biggest months for us are August and September, and those are kind of 10% each. And then through the rest of the year, it's 7, 8, 9. So there doesn't seem to be, I can't sit here and tell you, God, you're best off putting your show on sale in April. The data doesn't bear that out.
It's all marginal.
Canada is a little bit different, though. I think that Jeff, you jump in, but I know that Tragically Hip have done many winter tours. Nickelback, Billy Talent, Head League, Mariana's Trench bands that are playing in the bigger venues know that there's fuck all else to do in Western Canada in the wintertime, and it's a good time to tour.
Yeah, we sell it, to your point, in September, October, and play it in January.
Yeah.
But
Less
it's really
traffic.
fucking cold up here in January.
Yeah, but we don't play outside.
And we don't
Mazel
go,
tov, motherfucker.
and we don't go to all the gigs.
We sure as shit know that, don't we, Ralph?
And there's a bit of cabin fever too. There's not a lot to do in some of the areas. You're sitting in January. There's a couple feet of snow on the ground, so why not go to a show?
I don't know. Hey kids, let's play Dead, Donut, or Canadian. Here are the rules. We'll give you a name of a person, place, or thing, and you just have to tell us, are they dead, donut, or Canadian? If you get it right, you win a fucking donut. That hard. You guys ready to play Dead, Donut, or Canadian? What do you guys think? You ready? Come on! Jason, is Sid Caesar dead, donut, or Canadian?
I'm both dead.
He was born in Yonkers. He is in fact dead. Go ahead and pick yourself out one. Ralph, the Montreal Expos. Are they dead, donut, or Canadian?
All of the above.
We would accept dead and Canadian. So go ahead and take two, sir. You've earned it. Jeff, Dr. Joyce Brothers. Dead, donut, or Canadian?
Dead.
Born in Brooklyn, New York, that bitch is dead. And she's clearly something you don't want in your mouth. We will accept that. Please take the donut. My career is so over. David, Jim Carrey, dead, donut, or Canadian?
Canadian.
He is Canadian, but we would also accept that his career is dead. Go ahead and take a donut. Andrew, Miles Gilbert Horton, dead, donut, or Canadian?
Oh man, I'm gonna say dead and Canadian, and donut.
He's our hat trick. He is in fact the dead Canadian hockey player that the famous donut chain Tim Horton was named after, so you, sir, can get fat and take 3 donuts. Thanks for playing dead, donut, or Canadian. Sherpa! David, what marketing asset should an act have in place? You can swallow, it's okay.
Man, you were just hitting me with innuendo. There's something there. I love you.
I love you too, sir.
So assets, I think obviously a website, and it used to be where you would have to spend a ton of money on websites. You don't have to do that anymore. You can do a WordPress site for a couple $100. You should have a central place for everybody to go to. Obviously an active Facebook page, all of your social media should be up to date, and that up to date phrase is the most important thing. If I go to an artist's website and everything's out of date, I immediately lose attention, because if they don't care about their business, neither do I. And if things aren't up to date and things aren't timely, then obviously you don't care. So I think making sure that things that you can control are up to date and timely, you're pushing out regular content. Obviously when you're putting shows on sale, you want to make sure that you're communicating the message to people. So you're creating graphics for your shows. It used to be the whole flyer scenario. You would hand out flyers. You don't do that now. Just you post a graphic on your Facebook page. You want people to share. You want to engage your existing base, and hopefully they help tell other people about what you're doing.
Okay. Andrew, where do you look for the bands that you're booking on your festival?
Well, we really subscribe to one tenet when it comes to booking the festival, and that's just book shit we like. And we figure if we do that...
How much is the ticket for your festival?
That's a good question. It just happens to be free, which makes it easier to book the shit we like.
But yet harder to figure out how to pay for that shit.
Yeah, but we did the same thing. We did the V-Fest for the first 3 years as a paid ticket. And we booked the shit we like. It was a little more important that the stuff that other people actually like this stuff as well. But we've always done the same. I program the dance stage, and my partner Seth Hurwitz books the rock stages. But we never let anything on that we didn't have some affinity for. And then, now when it's free, it makes it a whole heck of a lot easier. In fact, at times people will be like, "What is this?" I'll be like, "It's just one of my favorites, don't worry about it." But, we always went with our gut. Just book stuff that we're passionate about, and that we figure people will share that view.
It's something we just have never thought about.
We have a question from the audience, Mr. Moderator.
We're going to save them until the end now.
Well, I was just wondering where he said he found acts.
He goes with his gut. He only finds the stuff that he likes. He has to like it first. There's not a... Truly believes in what he likes. Doesn't belong in our industry at all. Jason, does the promoter have a long-term investment in breaking an act?
Yeah, most definitely. As David said earlier, it's it's about the time, the effort, and the money put in there. We have limited hours in the day. Our staff has limited amount of time, and when you get a phone call from an agent or manager, hey, do you want to get involved? We really take a hard look at it, because we want to put a lot of love into it and a lot of time, and we want to get it up for their career and as well as for our benefit. So yeah, we're a long-term part of the process.
Well, look at what we own.
Are you talking about our drug habits, or?
I mean, we started out doing 2 shows together, and then it blossomed into we do 20 shows a year, and it started with a chance, and then it develops into a business.
Good. Jeff, what is the agency's investment in taking on a new act?
Well, I guess it's just man hours. I mean, it usually takes about 5 years to get somebody established enough that they have the semblance of a career. So it's all the people in the office and everything that they have to contribute in man hours. So I don't know.
It's an opportunity cost?
Yeah, I wouldn't attach a financial cost to it, but it's obviously the hours cost money. So
if we do this, we can't do this.
yeah. So there's only so much time in the day. That's why you need to be in a team where people are working as hard or harder than you are, in my opinion. And so that way it justifies committing your entire team, your staff, and everybody to spending 5 years to try and get to a point where there's something that you can sustain.
That's important. 5 years, is that the number you guys are, give or take, are hoping an act's going to break from start to hopefully making some money back?
Yeah, most of the acts come in and they're, it always seems like it could or it's going to happen quicker than that, but then it ends up being 5 years and it feels like sometimes 5 minutes. Things happen, it goes fairly quick, and before you know it, you're 5 years into development.
You like that number?
Well, certainly if you're talking about on a worldwide basis, bands that are massively successful are still breaking new territories. So,
well, nobody's worried about breaking London. No, Canada.
and I think it's hard to say. I mean, I don't. We represent this. We represent. I saw them last night. Congos. We don't represent them in North America, but they put this record out 2 years ago. It's the same fucking record. And then they decided to put it out again, and it goes to #1 in 4 weeks, right? Same band, playing the same music, same record. It was a complete dud, and all of a sudden it isn't, right? So
yeah, I mean to Ralph's point, it's when people jump in on it. It's new to some, but for that band that wrote the songs, they probably were in a hall somewhere 5 years ago, writing that song that is now on radio.
yeah, they were
2.5 years later.
They were in South Africa, just playing locally there, and couldn't get anybody's attention. Nothing happened with the record. Now they're big. Now they're a big fucking deal, right? So I mean, it's the same band. It was at least 5 years. Who knows how long it was. So I mean, there's no real time limit on it. But some of these things, the usual overnight success thing is never. That's what it is. Like there's no such thing.
So hopefully in 5 years from now, some of you guys are making real money. Tell your
That's real
parents,
money.
5 years. Let's do a speed round. I'm just looking for your personal preference. You just can't say both. Ralph, MP3 or vinyls?
Neither.
I just
So you couldn't say neither, okay. Andrew, Live Nation or cocaine?
Cocaine.
David, Justin Bieber or Ron Jeremy?
Ron Jeremy?
Jason, better on your French fries, ketchup or poutine?
Ketchup.
You know better.
Stir it up.
Jeff, spit or swallow? We'll go ahead and move on. Where does the revenue come from? Ralph, how important is it to tour behind current product? AKA a new album.
I mean, there's some schools of thought that say the strength of your touring is on the last record you put out, but obviously, if something's hot, then you want to be there. But again, it depends where it's hot and when it's hot. So depending on the number of territories that the band tours in, it's not possible to be in all the same places at the same time. So you do need a strategy that allows you to be where you need to be when you need to be there. So it's a tough question.
Okay. Andrew, your V-Fest is free, as we talked about, to the public. It's all paid for with sponsorship dollars. How do you go about getting a major corporation to pay for your party?
That's a good question. I don't know that we'd ever be able to replicate that one, and there aren't many instances of it happening before. I think you just have to get lucky and end up networked with a guy named Richard Branson, and he tends to want to do out-of-the-box crazy shit. So, but no, they've been a fantastic partner, and Virgin is a corporation unlike all others, and one of the things that was important to us in doing even a festival that was, sort of had a name and title sponsor and was really owned by that brand, was to make sure that it wasn't just a sponsor fest and just overload with logos and all that kind of stuff. And I would say to anybody who's interested in sponsorship at live events that you know, you can find brands out there that will do it tastefully and don't want to ram it down people's throats, and I think the public appreciate that.
Always been wondering how you pay for that thing. It's amazing. David, how do you maximize your merch revenue? I think it's very important to a lot of people in this room.
I think it's not quantity, it's quality of merch. I think it's really, you know, figuring out what your brand is as an artist and figuring out how to communicate that to people, and not throwing 100 different things up against the wall, but going with 2 or 3 things that really work, and sticking to that. And I think, you know, if you're a band that's on the road and you're actively pushing merch, especially as a young band, you know, you finish your show, you walk off stage, you're the one selling merch. And if you're back there with personality and you're pushing the stuff, you're gonna sell merch, especially if it looks good and you're the one selling it. People are gonna want to get close to you, they're gonna want to be next to you, and they're gonna want to buy whatever you're selling them. So I think, you know, that DIY attitude really makes a difference, especially when you're developing, and I think it's important. And, you know, as you look to tour more, that can really offset a lot of your expenses, making sure that you're generating and maximizing the merchandise revenue.
And on the, your point of going out to the merch stand, helps merch certainly, but also, from the career development. And the country's especially good at this. Those guys sit out there, will sign autographs and meet people. And after that interaction, it's a fan for life. You know, get out there and meet those people and talk to them and, you know, get them on your side.
No matter how shitty the band is. I met Carrot Top. I'm a fan for life. Jason, can developing acts make money on the road?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, we always try to, you know, preach long term. You don't need to make every last dollar this time. You know, you don't need to go with a huge ticket price. But you know, the reality is there are bills to pay, and you know, it's expensive to get touring. You know, especially the support isn't there in the past financially than it used to be, labels, whatnot. But yeah, you can definitely still make money on the road.
Jeff, can rock bands qualify for arts grants and/or government support?
Yeah, I think less so than some of the, you know, folk-based acts. They don't fit a lot of the categories that exist in this country, but they can certainly apply it, and indirectly they benefit, I guess, because there's a lot of festival grants, and so they're getting booked on these festivals, and a lot of the budgets for the festivals come from the funding. So some of the money's indirect, but it creates some of the guarantees for the talent, and a lot of that's wrong.
There's also money for touring from your government to tour outside the country.
Yeah.
And there's ways to tap into that, if like bringing your music, exporting it into other countries, you can get support for that as well, right?
Yeah, there's you know, there's 3 or 4 organizations that fund an awful lot of touring, so we're sort of fortunate on that front. In Canada, we're arts friendly, so, you know, we've got CanCon at radio, we've got Star Maker Factor, and various other grants that exist, Arts Council grants for touring. So, you know, there's certainly, it's worth getting educated about if you're starting out or you're in a band, finding out about these things and applying for them because they exist.
Government is certainly more supportive of our business than our government is, that's for damn sure. Ralph, at what level does an act become profitable in general on the road?
I guess it depends how big the act is and what their production, what they feel is important to schlep around to put on their show. So
can you make money on the club level though?
Absolutely. It depends though to what level of luxury you want to tour in and what kind of ticket price you command, how many people you think you need on the road.
So you're talking about touring with one guy versus a whole road crew touring in a van instead of 2 buses?
Yeah, like a trio instead of an 8-piece, you know. And certainly the bands that have figured out ways to tour, lean, mean touring machines is the way to go. And I mean, but some bands, you know, just can't spend enough money on production and never seem to ever get out of that hole. It's pretty absurd the money that gets spent in some cases. We've had some artists that do incredibly huge grossing tours and come home with next to nothing because of production excesses. But sometimes that, in the long run, works for them. But certainly at a club level, I think at a club level, and I was just talking about, say in Canada, if you once you learn how to do it properly, and you learn how to do a budget, and you're not crazy, you can make money.
Yeah, I also think the money's kind of relative. When you're starting out, sometimes things have a way of just working out. And so when you say profitable, one person's profit isn't another person's profit. So most of the people that start bands start them because they love them and they figure out a way to put gas in the tank, get a van, get to the show, borrow people's shit, rehearse in someone's garage.
I'm thinking in general, when do they get to stop calling their mom and dad for help from the road where they're fucked?
Sometimes never.
All right. Let's play my favorite round of questions. Truth or Patron? Each of our panelists will be given a shot of Patron, and they'll be given a question that's going to be a little bit harder than any other question they've gotten so far. So they can answer the question leaving the shot, or they can do the shot leaving the question as a mulligan, or they could be a true badass, answer the question, and do the shot, as I'm sure this Toronto audience would reward them for that. Am I right, Canada? Of course, I never asked them to do anything I wouldn't do first, so mazel tov, motherfuckers. Oh, it's so good when it hits your lips. It's really not. Andrew, some of your clients are vocally anti some of the other ticketing companies, not naming any names. But when you sold TicketWeb to TicketMaster, how much was your personal cut of that monster-sized check? Really hoping you were going to answer that one. Ralph, have you ever been tempted to poach an act from another agent? If so, who?
Absolutely, Jeff Craib.
David, you work with both agencies, Feldman and the agency group. Which one's better?
The Feldman Group, obviously. Oh. It was a combination of the names. I'll still do it.
Jason, have you ever been arrested for working with a boy band in any way, shape, or form?
Can't speak through this. Yeah, I got arrested at a Hanson show. That happened.
Jeff, if you could get rid of any one competitor and get away with it, no questions asked, who would it be?
Person or company?
Dealer's choice.
Well, I like Ralph too much, so we won't get rid of him. I don't know. I'll just take the show.
Give it up for our panelists, aren't they all go contestants? How you feeling out there, Toronto? You guys feeling okay? Talk ticketing, and then we'll get into some questions from the audience. Jason, is there advantage of working with one ticketing company versus another?
Yeah, I mean, they all do some things well, and some things better than others. I think, TicketFly in particular, I'll say this because Andrew's here. TicketFly is really good at social and, in getting people to share that they're going, and it has benefits. They cut a lot of, good online deals, and it's really beneficial for that. Ticketmaster has some other benefits, which I haven't figured out yet. But
So who's your favorite?
I'm a TicketFly client. I'll go there.
Excellent.
I was going to say, if Ticketmaster was sitting here, it'd just be a different answer. Or...
Actually, yes.
In all fairness, he is a TicketFly client. David, can a ticket company that's not up to par with technology hurt your show's sales?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm also a TicketFly client. I also use, Ticketmaster as well for pre-sales and whatnot for other clients. I think, you have to have a company that has great front-facing technology, but also as, a promoter, as a manager who wants to access data, you really need a company that is forward-thinking and gives you access to great data, because that's how we continue to build and grow our business, so it's vital.
Just to jump in for a second, if you don't know what data is, it comes down to the simple fact of having the email addresses and all of the data from selling past tickets in the market that Andrew's company is able to collect from every show that's ever bought online or over the phone. They have all of your information, and they can use that to sell future shows to hopefully get you common interest acts.
Well, it also, it drives where I advertise too. If I'm doing a destination event like I do with them, and I look at where people are buying tickets, where are they from, you know, I can look and say, wow, I'm seeing real growth in the Chicago market. I need to spend some more dollars there because I'm seeing the return. It's just really valuable that way.
Yeah, so and also, you know, promoters are collecting lists, ticketing companies are collecting lists. As bands, you should absolutely be collecting all of your, you know, customer information.
They're talking about email addresses. What those
Email address, yeah, most definitely. Get everybody to try to like your, you know, Facebook page. These are great ways to keep in contact with people, but don't rely on everybody else to sell you. You know, you got to communicate with your fans as well, and you should do that.
If the ticketing company will share the information with you, it's really interesting sometimes to see, like in a market like Toronto, how many you're selling in the 416 area code 705-519-905. It's really interesting to see who's actually buying these tickets. And you can learn a lot about your about the artist and where the actual strengths are. If that
You'll share that information, won't you?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, you can get that information.
But you guys are really open about that.
You talking to me, Dan?
Yeah.
I am the only ticketing provider up here. Well, we
You're the only one I invited, sir.
We certainly, thank you, Dan. We are greatly in favor of the sharing of data, but we are also the agent of our clients, who are the venues and promoters. So really, we're a platform, and they make the decisions. But I would add that, you know, historically, venues and promoters have made decisions in ways different than is possible today. It was largely based on gut, or maybe there were some Polestar tour histories and things like that. But now our view, and we're not alone in this, is that data is just the foundation of everything in regards to ticketing and really event promotion going forward. You know, data is foundational, as I think you just alluded to personalization and recommendations. So, you know, I'm a punk rock fan. I don't want to get the Kenny Chesney emails from Ticketmaster kind of thing. Also, data is foundational to tools to be serviced to venues and promoters to allow them to make better decisions and better understand what's an artist worth, what's the optimum ticket price. And then, interestingly, for the fans in the room, there are some very interesting tools that can be provided via data. For instance, we have a product that services top fans to promoters for the first time. You know, it's crazy how many times I've been to the Fillmore in San Francisco or the Independent or one of these venues, and you know they barely know who I am, and that's because I'm a ticketing provider. But if I was just a fan walking in off the street, you know, you go, you know, 3 times a month, they have no idea who you are. So data can change that.
Okay, let's do a word association. I'll give you a word or two. Say the first thing that pops into your mind. Ralph, Rob Ford.
The beauty.
Jeff, Nickelback.
Rock.
Andrew, midget tossing.
Dan Steinberg.
I'll take that. Jason, Gord Downey.
You like my ass in your face? Inside joke, never mind.
David, anal.
Wow.
All right, we're running out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the room for a couple questions before we wrap up. Anybody got questions? Go ahead.
I was curious, in terms of tour planning and keeping track of things, are there any like apps or particular software that you guys use or that you recommend?
Apps for what?
Keeping track of the tour data planning
For your act itself, or for bands that you love?
for bands touring. App for planning tours.
Master Tour. I mean, Master Tour is a good app to look into if you're looking for something that, you know, is a day-to-day holder of all of your information. So I would definitely check out Master Tour.
Yeah, which can get a bit expensive. I don't remember, you know, I see a lot of bands at a high level using that. I mean, do you think, is that good for a beginning band?
I think it depends on what you want to spend on it. I mean, I think for a one-user situation, it's not cost prohibitive, but it's definitely something that has great user interface. So, I mean, I use it for a couple of my acts, so I'll definitely check it out.
Yes, sir.
If you're working with a new emerging artist and let's say they're just doing their debut album, what is the range of shows that you would want to get them for the year or off the album?
I don't think, I mean, you guys speak to this as well. I don't think there's a specific number. I think that artists who are developing should work as much as humanly possible.
300.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be proactive. The more you can do, no matter what it is, the more you can play, the more chance you have to have a positive effect over what's going on. So you want to be strategic, especially towards your budget. You can only afford to do certain things. But given that, you want to do as much as you possibly can because you're out there waving the flag, trying to draw people towards the band, your music, and you know, just try and establish yourself.
And the more they play, the tighter you're going to get anyway, so those shows are going to help.
Well, for sure, if you sit at home and don't do anything, I can tell you what'll happen. Nothing.
Okay, any other questions?
I'm in an emerging local band.
Louder.
I'm in an emerging local band.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, is it still good promotion? We're in a 5-piece. Is it still good promotion if not all of us can go on tour at the same time for the lead singer? For the lead singer to go and do sort of like some solo gigs, if it's going to be a more acoustic setting, when we're like an 5-piece band, does it still count as promotion for the rest of the
Yeah, I think bands tend to scale down when they do radio shows or they do whatever promotional visits, and so it depends what kind of band you are. But if it's not imperative to the sound that you have, then yeah, I would consider anything. A lot of acts start out. You look at a band like I call it a band, but it's a guy, Passenger. This guy's out with like one crew person doing 7,000 and 8,000 seat venues in Europe. He can scale up to a band or down to a solo artist. So I think you do what you can.
Okay, we can't take any more questions because they're telling me to wrap it up. The three of you that asked questions, come see David. He'll tell you what you won. Please cue the end song thing, which is important for some reason, I think. Okay, please give